Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make a couple of cards using some of the November release from Technique Junkies. So we've got two background stamps, and we've got one regular stamp that we're going to be working with. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start with the Eat, Drink, and Be Thankful. And then I've got two different background stamps. We've got Washed, such a cool stamp. And also Beaded Curtain, which is also a super cool stamp. So I thought I'd do them both today and show you a couple different cards. And I'll be using this paper. I get it from Cardstock Warehouse on Amazon. And this color is called, I think it's called Claret. And then I've also got some gold paper here I'm using, and this is just a Recollections gold cardstock. And then I'll be using some watercolor paper as well. So we're going to start out by doing our background. And I've got this little background stamp, the washed stamp, and I'm going to go ahead and place my paper into my Misty tool. And I'm going to lay the stamp down where I want it. And then I'm going to use my anti-static powder tool to kind of, make sure I don't get a bunch of embossing powder where I don't want it, because we're going to be embossing this with a gold tinsel embossing powder from Ranger. So I've got my Versamark ink, and I'm just going to ink over the stamp. And just give it some good pressure here. Make sure it's good and stamped down. All the parts are in there. I will be trimming this down to 5 by 3 3/4, by the way, and matting it on a 4 by 5 1/4 same color cardstock. So I've got my gold tinsel here, and I'm going to go ahead and just shake that down onto my card base, and just a little at a time, because it's a whole card base. And I like this hot dog wrapper, but it's maybe not so great for a giant whole background, because I do end up getting that stuff everywhere. And I don't mind that it's globby here and there. It doesn't bother me a bit, because this is a background. So I'll go ahead and heat emboss that. We want to make sure, because it's such a large piece, that we get it all. So just check it carefully when you're embossing it. And I've got my tool heating up. So there we go. We've got that all nice and embossed, making sure I get every spot. And now I've got my two pieces trimmed down. And I'm going to go ahead and just use glue and glue this straight down to the matte layer. So I'm using the same color cardstock for both layers. Now I'm going to show you later in this video how to do one if you don't have colored cardstock. So stay tuned. Just make sure that's good and stuck down, and I'll just get it up out of my way here while I've got a heavy block on there. And the next thing I want to do is I want to stamp down and emboss the Eat, Drink, and Be Thankful stamp. So again, I'm using this claret color cardstock. I'm just laying my stamp down and then dusting off with my anti-static powder tool, and I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to heat emboss that with this, it's called gold tinsel. So it's got glitter in it and it's gold. Love that stuff for the holidays. It's great. I'm going to go ahead and just put some good pressure here so that I can make sure that I've got a good impression. And then I'll go ahead and pour on my embossing powder. Let me just get, we'll just use my hot dog wrapper for now. We're going to switch a little bit later, because I'm clumsy, I guess. I don't know. That's why I don't use paper coffee filters, because I'm clumsy. But these hot dog wrappers are really, really sturdy. So I kind of like that. Got the idea from Jennifer McGuire, by the way. It's nothing original by me. So I'm just going to go ahead and heat emboss that onto the dark colored background. And then I will fussy cut that one off camera. I'll fussy cut another one on camera, just so you can see how easy it is to cut out. There's no teeny tiny pieces or anything like that. So we've got that all cut out. And off camera, I cut out a card base, and I'm doing a gold, and I'm just going to glue this straight down to the card base. You could pop it up if you wanted to. To be perfectly honest with you, I am running low on foam tape, and I had all these foam pieces. I can't find them. I know you know my pain. They're in a big giant Ziploc bag that I can't find. So I'll just go ahead and glue that straight down. And then I, out of that same gold paper off camera, I cut out all of these little leaf sprays. And now these leaf sprays are from a Tim Holtz greenery set, but you could use any greenery you wanted. There's some really cool ginkgo leaves out there right now by Spellbinders. You could do a flourish, but the idea is Thanksgiving, so I went for these long leaves, and sometimes I cannot pick these things up to save my life, so I use my little tweezers to pick them up. Old arthritic hands, I guess. And I'm just kind of laying them out on here the way I want them to be. So this card with all this gold is going to be for somebody really special. And I'm just putting a little piece of mint tape on top of there to just kind of hold them in place while I glue them down. And one of them fell off, but it's no big deal. I'll put it back on in a minute. So I'll go ahead and flip these over. And then I'll lay this one in here the way I want it and just make sure they're all kind of centered. And I'll give it a good press, and then I'll carefully pull off the piece of mint tape. Now one of my little leaves wants to come off with it, but that's okay. And or we could just leave the mint tape there because no one's ever going to see it. Because we're going to cover it. So I am using this, this is from Simon Says Stamps, this foam tape, and it rips really easy, and the backer comes off really easy. So there's pluses and minuses because the backer comes off really easy. But that's okay. And I will just pop this down, get it centered, and that's basically the card. Pretty simple. Now I'll set this aside and I'll show you what you can do if you don't have colored paper. I'm going to grab a piece of watercolor cardstock, and you don't have to use watercolor cardstock. I just like the heaviness of it. And I'm going to grab my Distress inks, and believe it or not, I'm going to, let's see there, I've got Rusty Hinge, Crackling Campfire, Bundled Sage, Carved Pumpkin, and Fossilized Amber. So those are sort of my fall colors. And I'm just going to go straight pad to paper and just lay the ink down any old way. Like, honestly, there's no, don't want to mix the orange with the Bundled Sage, but other than that, it's willy-nilly because we're going for an abstract background here. So just going in with my Carved Pumpkin, then I'll go in with my Crackling Campfire. And the only thing is you want to make sure these are completely dry before you try to heat emboss over top of them. And I'm just dabbing there where the ink's extra wet because that ink pad happens to be really juicy. And then just adding ink here and there where I want it to make sure the whole thing's covered. And I'm perfectly good with the blobby look of that, totally artsy. So there's that one. And then I'm going to do just some regular cardstock. And I want to say, I think I'm using Simon Hurley Stark White cardstock. And I'm going to, I need a dark color for this. So I'm going to use Gathered Twigs, which is a really super dark brown. Because I want that gold embossing to show, So I'm just going to make a big old blob here. Love, love, love this color, and wait for both of those to dry. Now, to be perfectly honest with you, I ran them through my Mink off camera to make sure they were dry. So let me get that piece out of the way, and see there, I bumped my camera and didn't even realize it. So we're going to work with the beaded curtain now. And I'm going to use a straight gold, Princess Gold embossing powder instead of the spit it out, instead of the sparkly one. So same process though. I'm going to lay it down into my Misty, dust it off with my anti-static powder tool, stamp it down and emboss it. Same process. and really want to ink this up good. This is a beautiful, beautiful piece that I absolutely love these dotted backgrounds that come out by Technique Junkies. Every one that she's produced, I have loved. Because it's so versatile. You could use this in so many different ways. It could be ornaments. It could be curtains. And it's, you know, called beaded curtains. So, yeah. So I'm going to give that a lot of good pressure here. And then I will go twice on that just to make sure that everything's all inked up. And I'll tell you what happens. If your paper's not 100% dry, obviously your embossing powder is going to stick all over instead of to the pattern where you want it. So I'm giving that a good press, and I'll pull it out of my Misty tool. And I will go ahead and find myself a piece of normal paper here because honestly, the hot dog paper just wasn't working out for this purpose. And I've just got a piece of scrap paper, and I'm going to pour this Princess Gold embossing powder all over it. And just tap off where I need to, make sure I get the whole thing covered. And then I'll go ahead and clean up my mess here a little bit, sort of. Put things to the side. And I'll go ahead and also stamp out the Eat, Drink, and Be Thankful stamp. Well, let's get this one out of the way. That way I can emboss them both at the same time. And I've got my piece of paper with the gathered twigs ink stain on there. and you could use oxide, but it takes so much longer to dry. So the ink in this soaks into the paper, and once I run it through my Mink once or twice, it's perfectly dry. And I'm happy with that. Looks like it all came out. And even though, believe it or not, I sent it through my Mink, there was a couple of spots where my anti-static powder didn't work out very well. And all you have to do to fix that is just grab a really small brush and just kind of brush off the excess carefully. And, you know, I'm not a perfectionist. Doesn't have to be perfect. It's a handmade card. So, you know, I'll get it best I can. I'm happy with that. There we go. Go ahead and pour back my embossing powder. Dang it, I'm always forgetting to turn down my computer when I'm doing these voiceovers. My apologies. Nothing more satisfying than watching gold come to life when you heat emboss. I love it, especially on this brown. It's so beautiful. So I'll go ahead and do now the background piece, and I want to make sure that I get every single bit of it. Don't miss any spots. And it's a lot more subtle on this background piece because, you know, we have light colors in there, but it still shows up. And it's meant to look abstract. It's not meant to be anything linear or perfect. I will trim that piece down to 4 by 5 1/4. So I'm not going to mat this one. But it's just one way that if you don't have color paper, you can just make color paper. Okay, and I just trimmed a little bit off of each side. Pretty simply. And I'm going to glue that down to a craft card base. But first I want to kind of just lightly edge it. So I'm just grabbing the gathered twigs and just lightly going around the white edges. Nothing heavy. It's more than anything just to kind of hide the white core of that paper. And I'll glue that directly down to the card base. And I don't know what the heck happens to my camera there. Sure makes me crazy. I've tried different colors, backdrops. I'm just not sure. I will be getting a new one. Oh gosh, probably next week. I ordered the iPhone 14 Pro Max. I'm really excited because I've never bought my iPhones. Have been the cheap ones or used ones. So this is my first brand new, and I'll be paying for it till I retire. So this is how easy this is to fussy cut. That's why I wanted to leave that part in. Now, I do cut off the bigger parts. I'm not one of those people that can work my way around those chunks of paper that hang off. I just can't. I don't know. I'm not wired to do so. So you just move the paper. But I could tell you, when I first started making cards, I watched every video of people fussy cutting because I couldn't do it to save my life. I just couldn't figure it out. And what I figured out is there's nothing to learn. It's about practice. So we've got that there, but I want to kick it up a notch. And I had done another piece of watercolor cardstock earlier, and I had cut these leaves out of it. You could do any color leaves you want, and in the end I'll show you a picture of another one I did using an embossing folder instead. So, you know, there's all different kinds of ways that you can use these stamps, and this one in particular, for your Thanksgiving cards, if you send Thanksgiving cards, or if you just are thankful, or, yeah, whatever. So I'm just kind of arranging these the way I want them. And then I'll audition the piece on there, and I'm pretty happy with the way that is, just kind of grouped up there. And I will go ahead and I'm just going to put a little bit of glue here and there, just to hold those down, since I didn't do a piece of tape. And it doesn't matter if the glue shows through or anything else, because it's going to be covered by that piece that we just cut out. And I'll go ahead and pop some foam tape on here. When I'm done with this video, I am going to hunt down my fun foam. I don't know where I put it. Oh gosh, I'm such an idiot sometimes. I know I put it someplace where I could find it, which is why I can't find it. Okay, now I'm going to stand up so I kind of get this, make sure I get it where I want it, and there it is. That's simple to make this beautiful card. Isn't that gorgeous? That gold on that brown, love it. And here's our gold on the claret color. Well, I hope you like this video, and this next picture I'm showing you is a picture where I did this on the same thing on an embossing folder on some pattern paper. So that's it for me today. I hope you like this video. If you do like this video, please give me a thumbs up, and please consider subscribing to my channel. Thank you, and bye-bye.